Hello, everybody. Good morning. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of the Rush Hour podcast. We have an update to a video we made a week ago that was titled Nick Viall Defends Blake and Ryan. He called Justin a gaslighter, and of course, a lot of information has come out since then, but also at the time when they published their video, there was a lot of information refuting the points that they made. We, of course, covered that here. Now we have an update from Bachelor podcaster Nick Viall regarding the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, and Ryan Reynolds scenario. Now, Nick likes to refer to himself as the Walmart version of Ryan Reynolds, but he's the universal healthcare version of Ryan Reynolds. What does that mean? I have no idea. But either way, let's get into what he said. There's two clips I'm going to share with you from his podcast yesterday, making the rounds, starting to backtrack away from his previous position. And again, I don't really care, but I think it's interesting. It looks as though my comments were deleted on one of his last videos, or they magically vanished. Sometimes that happens. But the whole internet was on my side saying, yeah, you got to refute what's being said here. It's just completely wrong. Just so you guys understand what we're talking about, before I share what was said yesterday, again, very interesting stuff. Let's just go to the sort of hard takes that they had just leading up. Here's a clip from 2 weeks ago, and then the next clip is from 4 weeks ago. So these clips are just going to show, a little bit of being dug into the sand, as it were. Have a listen.
Justin Baldoni's lawyer leaked a voice memo yesterday.
As much as y'all want us to stop talking about this, I also want to stop talking about it, just to let everyone know. But unfortunately, it is just...
He keeps running his mouth.
They're just his...
that guy just running his mouth, defending himself, fighting for his life, really, his livelihood at least, and his family's. And by the way, I have no ill will against anybody here. There shouldn't be any threats made against them because they're going to share that there were threats made against them. We'll get into that in a minute. But I think you can cross-examine these points and say, like, how privileged to say, oh, here he is running his mouth. Are you kidding me? This is this guy's life.
His lawyer's
out there fighting the fight in the court of public opinion.
So, we really, when we cover the headlines.
Yeah, so anyways.
So they say they cover the headlines, but what's interesting is in the new video, they actually don't put Blake Lively or Justin Baldoni in their headlines. Probably, and this is kind of like when a newspaper gets something wrong, they'll like quietly retract it and post something, sneakily. This is like, they don't even, Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively is the biggest story in the world right now. And on their podcast, they don't even have them in the title. Why is that? Well, because they're kind of on the wrong side of this story. So we shared this clip, and here's another one. Again, there's no reason whatsoever to contact anybody. I'm just letting you know how poorly this take has aged.
Like, I'm sorry. You can hate Blake Lively all you want. You can think she's a mean girl. You can think she's annoying. You can think she's this and that. But you cannot tell me that Justin Baldoni is a warrior for women and a feminist and cares about women when these are the environments he's putting women in. Like, it's just, it's black and white. It's not gray. It's not confusing. It's not, well, what about, it's clear as fucking day. He doesn't give a fuck about women. If he's making her do these things, he's adding in.
The only problem here is it's not clear as day. These are the allegations, and he'll have a chance to defend himself in court. That's the world we live in. And since this conversation, of course, he's shared his side. The issue that I have with people is if you're going to go so hard in the paint about how much of a bad guy he is, then you're going to roll your eyes when he starts yapping his mouth, sharing his side. There he goes, yapping his mouth, trying to not be completely smeared. Here are their updates. Two clips for you to play. These are from yesterday's episode, and by the way, I want to let you know, this podcast that we recapped when I covered my version actually had double as many views as their version. So it just goes to show the appetite that exists for people to get the truth. By the way, and again, I used to have this podcast war going on with Nick where he had like 70,000 subscribers and we actually were beating him at a point. Clearly he's trampled me. He's at 207,000 subscribers. Well, I'm at 97,000 subscribers. Can you guys get me to 100,000 subscribers today? Can we do that? Can we elevate this story here? Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'm trying. All right, here's what he had to say.
We are very much obviously in the minority when it comes to the Blake and Justin.
Oh, I'm getting crap.
He goes, we're very much in the minority. Yeah. Oh, you don't say. You took a poll.
It's in my DMs.
That's
I'm getting,
so fucked
you better
up.
stop talking about Justin or else type of DMs.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Hold on. Did you get this type of DM or did you get that DM? You don't have to prove it to me, but are you getting threatening DMs? You should be reporting those. You should not be feeling threatened to have your opinion. The best way to manage free speech is everyone gets an opinion, and then the best opinion rises above the shitty opinion. You guys had a very shitty opinion the last couple of weeks, and the audience spoke, and there's better opinions. Now, I'm getting about 100 to 200,000 views a day on my channel right now discussing this. I say that because did 3 people leave you threats? That's 3 too many. I don't condone it whatsoever. But with that said, it's like the issue I had when I was exposing the cancer fraud and the pregnancy fraud, right? When I got that person investigated by county prosecutors because they were committing fraud and they were committing medical. Remember all that? Well, that person, apparently someone sent them a death threat, and then they tried to get me in trouble for it, right? They tried to sue me over it for harassment. Well, it's like I'm not responsible for other people. That's not a scapegoat to having a bad opinion. With all of that said, nobody should be threatening anybody for having an opinion. Just let them know, hey, your opinion sucks. That's all you need to say.
Colleen Hoover had to deactivate her Instagram. She's being harassed and bullied so much. A friend of show, like Liz Plank, Justin's former co-host, one of many people who has separated herself from Justin, also getting harassed and bullied online. But anyways, yeah, it's getting real toxic out there.
I haven't seen Liz Plank getting harassed and bullied. And I haven't seen Colleen Hoover getting... So look, did Colleen Hoover delete her Instagram because she was getting harassed and bullied? I don't know. I mean, trust me, I get it. When the internet gets a hold of a story, the worst of the worst, a small 0.01% of the people say and do crazy things. I get it. Don't let that get in the way of the 99% of people who are super reasonable, letting you know you got it wrong. Don't be a victim here.
Which I think we were, kind of surprised about, just because, like, obviously you guys know, you're aware of our opinion on the case, but like, if you are on the other side of things, it was just like shocking. People are literally sending Natalie threats, which is also interesting because no one's sending me those threats.
I'm sure they will now.
I say expose them. Expose the people sending threats. Absolutely. That's ridiculous. You should, first of all, this whole thing about strangers even sending you any DMs, don't go into your others folder. Like, these people expose the threats. I say platform. It's not doxing. Doxing's when you share someone's address or phone number. Everyone says, oh, they doxed me. If you have the balls or ovaries to threaten someone in anyone's DMs, you should be exposed. Share it with your employer and say, is this what you want your employee to be doing at their company right here, sending threats to Natalie Joy? So I'm on their side right now. They should not be receiving any threats. But don't let that get in the way of everybody else who's just leaving you comments, pushing you in the right direction. They shared so many instances of the wrong part of the story that's provably wrong. I mean, they always say a broken clock is right twice a day. Not in their podcast studio.
I mean, I see people like trying to like discredit our, because like one of the few shows out there, like, who are not Team Justin, like a lot of like the army of Justin influences are like, definitely coming for us, which is
I'm not coming for them. Not at all. And I'm not an army of a Justin influencer. This way to label people makes us sound crazy. I'm just somebody who read both court cases, looked at all of the evidence, pointed out Blake's flaws where she misconstrued her evidence, and that's where I stand. I haven't made up my mind, but I'll tell you what, they didn't give you the full story. That's for dang sure.
Always funny and fun. But I will say, I did talk to some people over the weekend, and I got a better understanding of where the Team Justin people are landing and why they're landing, and why there may be such vitriol if you are Team Justin. My friend,
I don't think there's such vitriol. Listen, if you mention anything, you're going to get vitriol. I'm a Patriots fan. Well, go kill it. They're going to get that online, especially when you have an audience the size that they have. I'm sure he gets as many hate comments about that sweater he's wearing. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, it's going to exist. I don't condone it. I've always said that, we need to ignore this stuff. And by the way, isn't that what Nick preaches? He doesn't read the comments? Isn't that what he says? So I don't think it's vitriol. I think what I just showed you is it's so much response to this snark.
He keeps running his mouth.
They're just, his lawyer keeps
lawyer's
yapping.
out there fighting the fight in the court of public opinion.
So who's vitriolic here? Are we vitriolic, or are we just saying, hey, guys, this is so not the way to be producing your top tier podcast because you're so misinformed. So now, like literally 4 weeks into this, now he's getting more information. Well, we're so happy for you. Thank you for finally getting some more information.
Went to a dinner party and overheard a group of women talking, and they were very much anti-Blake, right? They were making some wild comparisons. I think the general theme of this group of women, why they thought about Blake, according to my friend, was they think she's lying. They think she's making this story all up, which I do think that's the one thing all of us can agree on, that if Blake is just falsely accusing this man and making up stories, that would be like one of the worst things someone can do, given like just the damage of what it does to real victims out there.
I love that now they're saying if Blake did this, whereas literally moments ago.
Not gray. It's not confusing. It's not, well, what about, it's clear as fucking day. He doesn't give a fuck about women. If he's making her do these things, he's adding in.
So, what do you want from me, guys? This is your show.
And then I got a phone call from a friend whose opinion I really respect and trust. It was a work colleague, an acquaintance.
It wasn't me.
Haven't heard from them in a while, but do very much trust their opinion. And they were not Team Blake. I will say that people I did talk to, though, however, acknowledge that most of the information she is getting or forming her opinion around is just watching clips online. She's like, yeah, I didn't listen to your show. I'm like, that's fine. So it is a bunch of online.
Did she read the complaints and the lawsuits and stuff, or is she just...
Unclear. I think she's reading like a lot of people, because there's a lot of creators covering it and they're posting clips of the complaints.
Right.
So I don't think she sat down and read all the complaints, which I've done.
I did.
But I think her big takeaway is she said...
I'm calling his bluff. He said he read both. It took me 4 hours to read each, so I just don't believe he read that all.
She was in Blake's camp at first, and then when this video came out, that kind of changed her opinion in a sense that apparently after watching this video and reading Blake's complaint, it was like Blake's complaint didn't match the video. I'm not going to get into that. There's a lot of different opinions on.
No, Nick, get into it. You got a show here. You have a top tier show. You have all the time in the world. Get into it. You can't jump into the mud pit and then say, I don't want to get my shoes dirty. The shoes are dirty, Nick. Come on, Nikki, get into it. Analyze it. What Blake claimed happened wasn't indicative of what the evidence showed. So I guess Natalie is right. It is black and white, just not on the side she thought.
Out there right now, but that was just her opinion. So yeah, I think she just kind of thinks she's being a Karen. And then she also referenced how recently Blake's team referred to Justin as an abuser. And she was just none of these complaints, she's like, it doesn't say abuser to me. And my response to her was, well, listen, and I would say this to anyone who's been on Justin's camp. I was like, if you got hired at a job for, let's say, a 3-month engagement to consult on a job, and the boss of that job is someone that you were going to be working with every day, and the reputation of this person that you were working with every day was they were a saint. And then 2 weeks into it, all of a sudden they started giving you the ick here or there. They started making you feel uncomfortable. Then one day they called your friend behind your back, elicited some personal information, just a bunch of little things that were just I don't want to go to work anymore.
Are you talking about the information where he wanted to know how heavy she was because he has a serious back injury? There is nothing. There are nobody. I mean, I'm looking for content creators that have a bad experience with Justin Baldoni. Here's Jacqueline Toma, I believe her name is. She interned with Justin Baldoni, and she's got a whole story about how, hey, he was actually a good guy. And she shared this story last year when, it wasn't exactly the most opportune time to share it. So, look, I mean, yeah, I think he's got a nice track record, and I understand that doesn't mean he couldn't be a scumbag. But at this point, Nick's still buying into Blake's characterization of what went down. And there he goes, Justin, keeping on sharing that pesky information, trying to defend himself.
I'm uncomfortable. And then you finally complained. Turns out they were also HR, but you finally complained. And then you found out, and again, this is just my interpretation of the events. I don't want to get into what people disagree with. You finally complained, and then you found out that person hired people to bully you and your family and harass your other coworkers about you online and really make your life miserable. Like, wouldn't you think that person is an abuser? And they were like, yeah, I guess I kind of. That's just kind of how I see it. But the reason why my opinion is what it is strongly based off of.
And by the way, that's leading the witness there, because that's not exactly what happened. And Justin's point is he's trying to make is that they never acted on their crisis management to sort of respond to Blake. That was in preparation for what she might do to them. It sounds kooky, but when you see the timeline, he was petrified that she was going to, say he was fat shaming her and all these other things. Turns out whatever his fears are, she actually accused him of far worse.
The fact that I interviewed Justin a long time ago, read his books, consumed his content. And I just personally think that if you're going to make your whole platform through the books you write, the podcasts you do, the TED Talks you do, you are the voice for women to hear their sorrows and their pains and champion them and lecture men. And literally his message is, hey guys, are you man enough to believe women's stories? That is Justin's literal message. If you're going to do that, ultimately, in my mind, you're selling safety. You are.
So what is he supposed to do? Fall on the sword if he's falsely accused of something? And by the way, that's not his entire platform. I mean, up front, he's an actor. Yeah, he starred in a TV show. I'm sensing a little bit of jealousy from Nick. He seems to me to be the type who thinks there's only enough space in this podcasting world for one guy who can empathize with women. I don't buy it. It's coming off very scarcity minded.
We're selling, I am safe to a group of vulnerable people. And that vulnerable group is any woman who's ever had a bad experience with a bad actor who's a man. And so when you are selling that you are safe, you're literally saying, you can put your guard down around me. And it's just a lot easier to protect yourself when you see something coming versus when you don't see it coming. And I said to my friend, like, if I went to go see my priest for like counsel, and then out of nowhere, my priest started talking to me about porn they liked, I would probably feel way more uncomfortable than if like my kind of gross friend did it, right? And he put that responsibility on himself. So in my mind, if you're going to do that, you better walk the walk. And my standards for people like that are so high. And that's why I have such a strong opinion, because I just think it's highly unlikely that he walked the walk that he did. Like, she's accusing him of sexual harassment, not sexual assault. I think he did a bunch of weird, creepy little things. And I think she told on him because she wanted to get back to work. And I think he's hired a bunch of people who have created a lot of discourse and influence. But anyways, that's our opinion. I don't know why it's gotten so toxic, but I think we're trying to back off it a little bit so people can stop threatening my wife. But we'll see how things play.
Look, again, Nick, man to man, of course no one should be threatening your wife. I would be irate. She's here as your co-host giving a hot take where she said it wasn't black or white. Again, I'm not victim blaming her whatsoever. I don't know the seriousness of her threats, but that shouldn't take away from the actual conversation, right? So don't back off. Continue to share your opinion. What's the saying? If it's too hot, get out of the kitchen. Don't get out of the kitchen. Stay in the kitchen. It's not that hot. Most people are, and the people in the comment sections here, they say, hey, no one should be threatening back and forth. Again, that's not a parachute to like not apologize or say, hey, I got it wrong. So rather than say, hey, I got it wrong, he says, well, I'm learning more information from people I trust that are on the other side. Okay, run with it. Run with it. You know what I mean? And people have said, well, Mint Mobile is his sponsor. So it's like, oh, come on. Who cares if Mint Mobile's Mint Mobile's my sponsor. They can go F themselves. You know what I mean? Use my code RUSHHOUR. But either way, it's like, who cares? Come on. Authenticity. That, fuck your sponsor, right? What you really need to do is be truthful to your fan base. It doesn't mean you have to always agree with them. You don't have to deal with the audience capture of them believing you and agreeing with you nonstop. That's not what I'm saying whatsoever. But what your audience wants is you to be authentic. And what I see right here is them saying, oh, we're backing off. Why? Because you had a bad take that's not aging well? You don't put the title in? I think that's hilarious as this becomes the biggest story in the country, if not the world, the entertainment world, that they're going to be backing off it as if they've backed off from any other scandal or big story like that. So again, I don't think it's, I would maybe think about your takes, get more educated, and continue to talk. I'm not shaming anybody. just calling some light bullshit where I see it. All right, that's the episode. We'll be back with more right after this.